Hey everyone, and welcome to On the Margins. My name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. I'm the founder and host of Let's Talk Supply Chain. And with me right now is my co-host that everybody knows. No, I think it's co-host with the mostest. MVK, how you doing?
I'm doing really well. I'm coming at you live from London, and it's always good to see you. Yeah, like I look forward to another conversation, Sarah, as always.
You are always on the road and always traveling. I think I mentioned this in the last show, but how do you do it? Do you have like some tips and tricks? Like I know for me, I have to take some electrolytes with me. For the
Uh,
hotel room, I need a noisemaker.
well, for those that know me well, I love parties, and so I actually think that that's what keeps me going. Is I love to connect. I take so much pride in what I get to do every day. But I've been over the past 6 weeks or so. I was in New York and in London and Chicago, and it's for me. It's just the energy I get out of connecting with my our community, customers, but just CPOs in general, learning from them, sharing what I hear. It just gives me so much energy that I don't know. It's like it sounds maybe a little counterintuitive to some, but it's just a gift that keeps on giving, and I absolutely love it.
I love that kind of attitude and energy, right? I think it gives you energy talking to
Yeah.
people, meeting with people and traveling, where a lot of people it drains them.
No, I actually thrive off of. I'm not sure if this is a good thing or not, but I thrive off of energy and being in a room with people, and we're all in this thing together, and we're all trying to solve very similar problems, irrespective of where I am in the world. I've learned that over the past several years, really, and it actually gets confirmed every single time. Whether I'm in Asia or I go to South Africa or in Latam or in the US or Europe, it doesn't really matter. The challenges are the same. I mean, helping and playing a role in the community that we've created. I mean, it just honestly keeps me highly energized. Ask me again in 5 years if I feel the same.
Well, so talk to me about some of those takeaways that you've had from talking to all of those people. What's top of mind for people right now? What's keeping them up at night? How is the procurement community feeling at the moment?
Yeah, I think it's occasionally like a little bit of a mixed bag. I think we're excited about technology. There is so much out there,
So
uh,
much.
so much investment. When I was in DPW, it's like what 2 months ago. There were 140 different solutions out there.
Wow.
Investment is significant. So at least what I'm saying is like, look, I think where we were struggling in the past was the lack thereof, right? And now it's almost feels like the access that's out there, and just finding the right solutions out there is not easy. But at least there is a lot of attention to technology in procurement, so that's
Mhm.
exciting. We mean something, right? We're at the table. There's a lot of interest and a lot of investment that's coming into technology for procurement, so that's great. I think the challenge that we still have, of course, is what's going on in the macro, with all and everything that's going on at the political level, and like there is so much happening, that we can't control a lot of these things. And I think what everyone is worried about is inflation and the labor market and interest rates and everything that we can't control. And how do we continue to create these what if scenarios and optionality in our supply chain and optionality with our suppliers and managing containing cost, while at the same time we're here to execute strategic objectives of the companies we serve. And I
Yeah.
think that's where the unknown is. But I think at the same time, I believe that that's also what keeps our profession exciting. And again, I said earlier, like just sticking together and solving similar problems together, I think is the way to go.
But it's also why we need each other as teams, like leaders and teams, procurement teams, supply chain teams. But like you said, like I always say, and I'm trying to point to this, I always say that collaboration is the future of business. And I keep that top of mind whenever I'm on camera or on a show or anything like that, because I really think that it's important for us to as human beings, as individuals, to not get overwhelmed. I'm hearing from a lot of leaders and supply chain professionals that it is overwhelming because there's lots of choice and there's lots to sort of sift through and think about. But at the same time, with technology coming in, I think we're also, as leaders and professionals, getting measured differently. We need to get our performance is being measured differently, and we need to change that from traditional approaches, because sometimes we're being measured on what we've traditionally been measured on. Whereas with technology, it brings new innovation, it brings different KPIs, it brings different creativity and strategies to the table. And I think we need to make sure that our organizations, cultures, and conversations are changing with the times as well.
No, 100%. I mean, look, the company I work for, we always have said, ever since our founding, and we still say today, none of us is as smart as all of us.
Mhm.
It's that concept that you have behind you there. Of course, the other big topics that are out there. So, I mean, that's really how we philosophically think about running our company together with our customers and our partners and the whole ecosystem. And then the second thing I'll say is like, look, we're all talking about AI. We're talking about the generative AI and LLM and all this stuff. But what we should never forget, we are still a people's business,
Yep.
and nothing beats human connection. And again, we talked about it at DPW as well, but and other settings is, we still have to stay connected together. AI is another tool. That's the other thing that maybe I want to share is like, everybody talks about AI, but we're all still trying to figure it out. And maybe we talked about it last time as well. But like really just like embracing that as another tool in the toolkit. But human connection is always the key.
Yeah. Now, really quickly, before we bring our guest up, I think Coupa has a campaign going on right now that's called Mind Your Business.
Yeah.
I saw that and I was like, what is this about? Why should I mind my business?
Well, I think at the end of the day, we should all be minding our business. But no, look, I think we're stepping up our game. I mean, we're being also a little facetious here and there, and you've seen a couple what some people might refer to as guerrilla marketing, which I think is amazing. We're really raising the bar. We took over the Sphere a little while ago, and
Oh, I saw that.
that's how we should roll, right? We're Coupa, and we also need to be a little facetious out there, and I think that we should make it maybe less heavy. But yeah, I mean, everyone should mind their business. I mean, I think that's what our fiduciary responsibility is that we are, minding our business. So I actually love that.
So if anybody did not check that out, you have to head over to MVK's LinkedIn profile and search for the picture of the Sphere, and you will know what we are talking about. If you know what we're talking about, we want to hear your comments in the comment section. All right, before we bring Rendy up, I think it's been about 5 years since I've been on stage with Rendy, and I'm so excited to have her. Just quickly though, MVK, why are we talking about this topic today? Like how to thrive through cost cutting and corporate changes. Why are we talking about this? Why is it so important?
There is so much going on across the globe with companies, private equity, investments, including the company I work for, right? So how do we manage an environment that is changing a lot? And I think that applies to a lot of corporations in the world. There's so much change happening, not just technologically, but also just globally. And how do we continue to drive value from that perspective? And then the second thing, of course, is, given where everything is, what I just said, containing cost reduction, or optimizing the value of the spend, I think is such a hot topic. And who else we could invite for these topics and how to drive and thrive in a changing environment. Who better to invite than Rendy Miller? So I'm super.
All right. Well, without further ado, let's bring up Rendy. How you doing, Rendy?
Hey, Sarah. Hey, MVK. Great to see you. Great to be together with you again.
It's so good to see you. I think it's been about 5 years since we've been on the virtual stage together, and I missed it. I think we've done 1 or 2 of them, and I miss it because you bring so much to the industry. So MVK, why don't you introduce Rendy? How do you know her?
Yeah, look, and I'll let Rendy introduce herself, but I've known Rendy for years. I've always admired Rendy for the passion, the excitement that she brings to procurement, the leadership, the change management, and all those things. And she's worked for some incredible brands. But yes, she's also a close friend of mine. And I'm proud to say that. And yes, I'm just happy that Randy's on the show. I mean, it's always a pleasure. So Randy, why don't you do a quick intro yourselves and maybe also share how you and I met.
Sure. Like I said, it is great to be here. Great to see you again too, MBK. It's been a minute, but with all of us, but it's good to be here. And gosh, I'm trying to remember how we actually met, MBK. And I know before I was a Coupa customer, I used to say I could probably sell Coupa as well as your best salespeople because I had just wanted so badly to be a customer. So I think probably about the time that I became a customer was when you joined Coupa, and I think that's where our paths collided. And it has been just a pleasure. I loved hearing you say how much energy you draw from conversations like this. And I feel absolutely the same. I think we share, a tremendous passion for the industry that we're in. And so I'm grateful to be here with both of you. So
can I, before we get into the, the nitty gritty of this conversation, what's your favorite thing about working in procurement? I'm just so curious. You're so passionate about it that I just want to know what your favorite thing is.
Yeah, so it's really the people that is my favorite thing. I kind of, like many people, fell into procurement as a career, and it has served me so well because of the network of people that I've met, friends that I've made. They're not just colleagues, but they are true friends, like MBK and Sarah, yourself. But I don't think I would be here today without that network of people. And so I just think it is a really, really unique group to be part of. I also love within my company knowing a little bit about every single thing that goes on in the company. So I'm not siloed, into, one specific area. I know the entire business and I get a peek into what everyone's doing. So those are the things that I love about procurement.
Right.
Yeah, very cool. Look, Randy, one of the things that we definitely want to talk about is how to navigate change and how to navigate transition. You were one of the first people I called when I heard that Thoma Bravo was going to buy Coupa, because you've also done a few of these private equity buyouts. So I think one of the first questions that I definitely wanted to ask you is what is your experience with managing big transitions and how do you navigate these initiatives, especially while potentially facing cost cutting or under a new leadership? How did you do that?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, you brought up, the private equity buyouts. And when I started my career, the company that I was at was bought by private equity. And I'll tell you, it's a lot easier to just be a practitioner and just kind of going along with the flow. I was young in my career, didn't really even faze me. I didn't know what was happening and how it was going to impact me. Very different as a leader when those things happen and those big changes come about, because when you're held to, sometimes a whole different, set of standards or expectations, and, the rules have changed a bit maybe. What I have learned in 25 years now of being in this industry is the one thing that we can always count on, and this is kind of a life thing too, the one thing we can count on is change. And so being adaptable to the change and not being afraid of it, almost expecting it to come, because whether it's a private equity buyout or it's a pandemic or it's an economic, ebb and flow, we have all been through some really significant changes, in the last, 10 to 20 years. And so I think expecting it, being prepared for it, and, I think the important way to prepare is to, one, have trust with your employees. If you're a leader, make sure that they trust you so that they know, you're going to navigate them through this. Particularly your people that are younger in their careers, they need to see that they can trust their leader. I think also making sure that you've got a really solid foundation built in terms of your people, your processes, your technology. Focus on that foundation, because once the foundation is strong, it doesn't matter what's going to come. You're not going to be able to shake it. You're going to be able to adapt to what those changes are.
Yeah, I think that's excellent. I mean, that really resonates very well. In fact, our CEO constantly reminds us that change is constant.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean sake for the sake of change, because
Yeah.
some people might interpret like, well, what does that mean?
Mhm.
But it is fair, and it's embracing it. Focus on what I tell my team is like, look, focus on the things that we can control.
Mhm.
If we're not clear, ask the question. Don't be afraid, right? Fear is always the worst advisor, as we all know. But people have
Absolutely.
a tendency to kind of think of change as this big hairy beast out there. But just embrace it. It's a constant. Ask the question. Be curious. And we'll get to some of those other traits as well in a second. But so it resonates super well with me. So thank you. And it's actually the counsel you gave me when I called you. It's over a year ago when I said, "Hey, Randy, I know you've gone through this, and so it's you're also being authentic, and it was also the advice you gave me." So I again wanted to thank you for that.
Yeah.
But if you could go back in time and you would counsel yourself, through some of these transitions, what advice would you give your younger self? Of course, you've only been doing this for what, 10 years at most. What your advice would you give your younger self before I get in trouble here? Why don't we start with that? Like, what advice would you give your younger self?
You said it, and that is not to be afraid of the change. And every time I have gone through some kind of change, it really for the better, in the long run. And, you hear people talk about this all the time when they've been impacted by a reduction in force or a layoff. That change is just devastating, but then it's turned out to be something great, in the back end. And so you cannot be short-sighted. I think that is what I would tell myself is don't look at what's happening right now. Let's look at, continue to remember what's coming in the future, and that change can really produce some really great growth. And, growth is not always easy, but it's so necessary, and it really is so rewarding. And so that's the number one thing that I would tell myself is not to be afraid of it. Because, sometimes the unknown, particularly in cases where there's, new management coming in, you don't know what the future is going to hold with that new management. You don't even know if your position is secure. And so just not being afraid of the unknown, and, continuing to push through and lead with the integrity and, the values that you've always led with. I think those are the things that I would tell my younger self.
I want to jump in here real quick because I think it's also the opportunity that comes out of that change. We talk a lot about technology, right? And AI and how it's going to change, and oh my goodness, I'm going to lose my job. But what we've actually seen traditionally, and I've learned this fairly recently, is that with every new technology, we've actually gained 2 to 5 new jobs and positions that we didn't even know existed or could be possible as an opportunity from these new innovations and from these technologies. So we actually don't even know what those opportunities could be. And it's all in how you look at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely, it's about mindset. I love that, Randy, and also Sarah, what you were saying. And it's very true. I mean, what AI is obviously going to take away is a lot of the mundane, repetitive stuff that, who wants to run an RFP? I mean, come on, like AI is
Me? No.
what we want to do, we don't want to drive innovation, and we want to be, strategic advantages and all that great stuff. And I mean, running an RFP is so tactical that at some point,
yes,
why are we doing that? Why are we redlining contracts? Like, I mean, again, we can talk about AI another time, but to your point, it's really about embracing it, because by embracing it, it's about attitude and it's about mindset. And if it's the woe is me, then very likely woe is you, right? I don't know if that made any sense, but anyway. Hey, and then what lessons learned? I mean, you kind of already talked about it a little bit, but maybe, some scars along the way. I mean, for those listening to my podcast or the podcast we did last time, Sarah, we talked about scars. And so what kind of pitfalls would you see, and what are some of the mistakes that you've made?
Yeah, I think one of the mistakes I made in and this is prior to being at GitLab, the last 2 companies that I have been part of were both acquired by private equity. And so I think, some of the things that I learned in the first round of that were, one, to ask for help. And, to not think that I can do this all on my own. We were given a massive reduction target. And, for an organization that's already mature, that has already, really negotiated, to the max on, the contracts and things that we have in place, to then come and say, okay, on top of that you've already done, we need you to, reduce even further. And to think that I have to do this all on my own, my team, and how do we do this? Not asking for help, I think was probably set me back a bit. And, once I was able to say, we can't do this on our own. And we're already, managing the day-to-day of the business. We're going to need some outside help to come in and, work alongside us to achieve this goal. So that's probably, it's kind of fresh in my mind.
Well, and I want to appreciate and acknowledge both of you, because MVK, you said you reached out to Rendy for some advice and some help when you were going through the transition. And then Rendy, you were just, very authentic in the fact that you recognize that you need help. And a lot of times we're in these situations and we're like, I need some help, but I'm not sure how vulnerable I can be or who I can reach out to. And I just this is public, right? So I just want to acknowledge and appreciate both of you for doing that, and showing that it's possible, and, the art of asking for help and when to reach out, and that it is possible for them to do it. Now, we've talked about, pressures. We've talked a little bit about overwhelm that leaders are feeling at the moment. What would you say to procurement leaders to help maintain supplier relationships when there are so many of these extra pressures right now?
Yeah, I think that is so critical. And at the time when you need them to step in and help you with a reduction, that's not the time to start building a relationship. The time to start building those relationships is right from the beginning. And I am very big on transparency. So making sure that, as much as you possibly can, being transparent with your suppliers and treating them as partners instead of just vendors that, work for you. But, in my experience, I've done like these supplier summits and things like that, where you bring suppliers in and you kind of open the kimono and say, these are what our initiatives are and our goals are for the next year. We want you to help us achieve those goals. How can you help us do that? So really making them feel like partners sets you up for a better conversation when you come back and say, hey, I'm getting this pressure to reduce costs even further. So how can we reduce costs? How can we maybe extend our relationship even further? But we've got to do it at a reduced cost set for us, because that relationship goes so far when, we talked a lot about this, about, AI and the replacement of people, and it will never replace people. And relationships just play into every single aspect of what we do. So I think developing those relationships, being transparent, utilizing them as a strategic partner in your business, giving them feedback, asking for feedback. How are we as a partner? How can we improve? How can we better utilize your tools? I think those things are really critical when it comes time for those really hard conversations to say, I've got to cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, we should probably do another one of these and then just talk about supplier relationship management and why it matters. I couldn't agree more, but we got to move on. But I wholeheartedly agree. Rendy, so another question, is about, and I know you, I think really well. I've never been part of your team. Maybe one day I'm lucky enough. But how can leaders support their teams emotionally during changes, whether it's organizationally, economically, or leadership changes? Like, how can we support our teams? What things would come up for you?
I think it's really critical for leaders to maintain their calm, their centeredness. I firmly believe that the emotions of the leader bleed into the emotions of the team, and you can steer your team whichever way you want to go. If you want to be really negative and really down and, say this change is the worst thing that could happen to us, your whole team is going to go that direction with you. But if you can incent excitement about the change, confidence in what you're doing, confidence in the team, I think that's the most important thing. I've seen it go both ways, and I've had leaders on my team that I've had to say, look, you've got to, when you show up, you can come to me and you can have, complain and say all the things that are bothering you. But when you show up for your team, you've got to put on a positive face and a positive front. And even in the face of uncertainty, when we don't know things and we don't know what the future is going to hold, we can still, that's okay to say that. And I think it's fine to be your authentic self, but really instilling that and making sure that your team trusts you. And again, kind of like going back to the supplier conversation, that trust is built a whole long time before that change comes. So.
Well, and 3 or 4 truths can actually be truthful at the exact same time. And like you said, that response, I don't know, is actually an okay response. And people will appreciate that more than you trying to fit like a round peg into, or square peg into a round hole, whichever that one is.
Yeah, but it really takes a confident, secure leader to confess, hey, I don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure it out. I mean, I have people on my team ask me, hey, Michael, are you still going to be at Coupa 6 months from now? I'm like, I don't know. Does it bother me? No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's fine to admit that. It's fine. I have no issue with saying, I don't know. It depends on, do people still want me here? Am I still driving value? Do I still enjoy it? And so yeah, I mean, I think it's part of authenticity and a part of being your true self. But also be vulnerable. I think, Randy, that's, again, if I'm ever fortunate to be on your team, that'd be amazing. But I mean, it's those types of things that I think are critical. And often we feel like we can't be vulnerable in front of our teams.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do I rant sometimes to a team, to one of folks on my team? Absolutely. You can call Brendan right now on my team, and occasionally we go off on a rant. And I think that's good. It's good. We should be able to do that. But at the same time, we are here to lead our teams, to guide them authentically. And I mean, like I couldn't agree more, Randy, that being vulnerable and just saying, look, I don't have all the answers. I don't know. Do I know all the new leaders that have come in at Coupa today? Absolutely not. I'm starting to get to know all of them much and much better. And but it's a learning process, right? I mean, you don't get my trust. You have to. And we know this is so basic. You have to earn it. Yeah. And so anyway, Randy, I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah.
So I think we've got one more question for you before we're going to hit trivia. And just a reminder to all the audience, we've got another pickleball set up for grabs. So stay tuned. So Randy, just before you go, what's one thing procurement leaders should start doing now to improve resilience in the face of big changes like the ones we've been talking about?
I think we've talked about those things. It's building the foundation. So, and not just building a foundation of trust. I would say probably if I had to say one thing, it's trust, building trust. That's with your people, with your suppliers, with your leaders above you. I think build trust now so that you've got that strong foundation as you go into the winds of change.
Love that. Well, Randy, thank you so much for joining us here at On the Margins. We always appreciate you, right, MVK?
Absolutely.
Thank you both. So good to be here with you.
Happy holidays, Randy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Same to you. Take care.
All right, so now it is trivia time, and get ready. We're going to do it a little bit different this time because we've got 3 questions for you. And what we want you to do is we want you to comment with your answer. Now, the person who comments the fastest with the right answers for all 3 questions are going to win the pickleball set, and I will be in your DMs on LinkedIn to let you know that you have won. All right. So are you ready? Get ready to type in your answers. So the first question is, according to the latest Coupa benchmark report, what percentage of their overall business spend do high-performing companies save? A, 2.3%, B, 7.6%, C, 4.9%, and D, 5.8%. I feel like we need some Jeopardy music. Do, 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 do. No?
No, we should. Hey, I could have talked to
I
Randy.
quit my day job.
I could have talked to Randy for another hour.
I know.
No.
We really need to talk to the powers that be and see if we can extend these shows
Yeah,
for a
we
little
should
bit
probably. Yeah, we should. But then the question is, everybody's still going to listen to us, right?
I know. All right, get your answers in. We're about to give you the answer. All right, MBK. What's the right answer?
The answer is, as much as I hope it was 7.6, the answer is 5.8%.
All right. Let's get to our second question. So, approximately how much has been spent on pickleball equipment through Coupa in the last year? Are you kidding me? So, can I just tell everybody? I just started. Actually, I'll give you the answers first. Okay. A, 1 million. B, 2.3 million. C, 783,000. D, 500,000. Now, let me tell you, there are 43 million people just in the United States that are playing pickleball. And recently, my husband and I just joined a league every Saturday. So we're playing pickleball for 2 hours. And let me tell you, over 800 calories I burn every time I play pickleball. Like, this thing is no joke. And people are spending lots of money on it. Do you play pickleball?
Yeah, well, I live in Europe. I think it's coming. I think this is one of the things that start in the US and then come over to Europe, I guess. But I mean, there's been other things too. Just before I get in trouble here, but no, it's starting in Europe, but it's not. I remember when I lived in Canada. I mean, everyone went crazy over pickleball. It was like we had pickleball fields popping up left, right, and center. So I think we're still we're getting there in Europe. Hey, but the answer is $1 million.
Wow, I cannot believe that. I mean, I can believe it, but I can't believe it. And I'm not entirely sure why it's going through your system, but that's a question for a whole other day. All right, last but not least, get ready. This is your last question. So, which car rental company was the most popular among the Coupa community last year? A for Alamo, B for budget, C for national, and D for enterprise. Now, I know which one is my go-to, and it's not on the list. So I'm in the very, very low bracket. But what about you? Was this answer kind of surprising to you?
No, it's my go-to.
It is your go-to?
My go-to.
I have never rented from these people ever before.
Yeah, well, one, they are a customer of the company I work for.
Oh, okay, then I should.
That's neither here nor there. They're also an advantage partner. I mean, so anyway, so it's anyway.
All right, tell everybody.
No, let me very quickly, before I answer the question really quickly, you'd be amazed some of the stuff that goes through the Coupa platform, because we don't discriminate on spend. Okay, so I mean, we've had dolphin medicine for the MGM go through the Coupa platform. Can you imagine medication for dolphins? Anyway, the answer is C, national.
Well, congratulations on whoever answered quickly. We will get back to you after we tally everything after the show. And I want to just put it out there that I'd like to do a memorandum or moratorium show for on the margins on some of the spend that you have to go through.
We should do that. We should come up with a list. That would be fun. Let me talk to our internal friends and see if we can get away with here is a top 25 list of all the stuff that goes to the Coupa platform, and then maybe people. That would be I think that'd be fun. You'd be amazed what goes to the Coupa platform, I tell you.
All right, well, one last thing, meet and greet the hosts and us, so MVK and myself at Coupa Inspire 2025. So visit coupainspire.com to learn more. Thank you so much to everybody who joined us. Thank you to Randy for joining us for this episode. MVK, as always, you are my favorite co-host. And join us next month as we explore more overlooked aspects of procurement, supply chain, finance, revealing all the insights and advice to achieve profitable durable growth, and make margins multiply. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.